Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of All Things God and Country. I'm your host, Justin Clearwater, and this is my co-host, Gustav Thunderson.
Jacob Kitson.
Or that, I suppose. I finally got it right that time,
You
though.
did.
I didn't mess it up.
I also didn't interrupt.
It's the methylene blue.
It is.
It got out the joke.
It did. The methylene blue is great. I mean,
Doesn't taste that bad
it
when
didn't,
unless you taste concentrate straight.
which I don't think I was supposed to do.
Well,
I can tell you what, I felt it in my toes, tongue, nose, and everything in between.
I'm curious. I saw another guy that Paul Saldino,
That sounds
doctor.
familiar.
He's carnivore-esque, but he's super smart, dude. I think I've sent you some stuff of his before, but he's got some study out some more negative aspects of methylene blue. So I'll be curious to see how the two sides shake out.
Well,
And the best way I know how to do that is experiment.
I mean, I'm a fairly big hippie
See if
in
I can.
comparison
You
to
talk. I'll look for that article.
um I'm a fairly big hippie in comparison to like what I put in my body. You know that. Like I don't take pharmaceuticals, I don't do anything like that. So for me to take methylene blue is
Shocking.
not only that, it's different than what I've done for the last several years as almost a decade now as far as how I've lived my life. I don't think that it's necessarily the same as a pharmaceutical by no means in regards to um, my perspective of it. So I think that that's why I'm okay with it. But the
It
oxygen,
it
go ahead.
also turns your brain blue.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it is in the blood.
It
So
helps with the mitochondria electrical pathways.
correct. I knew that. Right. Which the mitochondrion's the powerhouse of the DNA. If you,
This guy said it's not true. Blocks mitochondria electrical transport chain. Methylene blue is actually decreasing the amount of ATP produced in cells. Lower energy production is bad for humans. That is not a half think. Changes serotonin levels in your brain. Mayo A, Iodine oxide A. Oh, I'm butchering it.
I mean,
It should be interesting to see.
the effects.
It doesn't mean he's right. Doesn't mean he's wrong.
Well, no, not only
We'll
that. So, like, but if
just
it's
have to see.
okay, so methylene blue, right? Let's ask Rock.
There you go.
Let's
We'd ask
ask,
Alex Jones.
yeah, let's ask.
Methylene blue. We got the highest quality methylene blue on the planet.
So we'll just ask, should
I took it
I
yesterday and I'm still
take
jacked.
methylene blue? Let's see what Grok says.
I mean, I couldn't imagine if it was bad that RFK would be taking it because he's more of a health nut than probably you or me.
Antidote for certain poisonings. Lately, it's gotten attention for off-label uses like boosting mitochondrial function, improving cognition, or even as an antioxidant, which totally
Yeah,
can feel it as the
yeah.
antioxidant. Your blood flow, as far as like in my own, this first time I've ever done it, again, Benadryl, I don't even take, right? Like I take an aspirin so because I eat so much cheese and dairy, but other than that, I don't take pharmaceuticals of any kind. So it has a different effect on me, I'm sure, than it would, somebody who's regularly takes things. So I
I
could,
don't. Yeah, I don't take any.
you don't really take pharmaceuticals, you just take workout supplements,
Yeah,
which kind of is not the same.
no.
Um, so some studies suggest it might have neuroproductive effects, but the research is still pretty early stage, especially for health people looking to experiment with it. The catch, dosage and safety depend a lot on context. Low dosage, like zero point 0.5, generally considered safe for medical use, but higher doses can mess with serotonin levels,
Okay.
potentially risky if you're on SSRIs or other moods that
Hmm.
affect serotonin, since it could lead to serotonin syndrome. Side effects can include nausea, headaches, or turning your urine blue. Weird, but harmless. Long-term effects aren't well studied for casual use, so it's a bit of a gamble. If you're thinking about it, I'd say check with a healthcare pro who knows your situation, your health history, meds, and whether you're considering. They'd have a better handle on whether or not it's worth a shot. Yada 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 yada. All right, hold on.
So that's basically what Paul Saldino was saying too.
All right, so we only took it once, so we're not going to die.
And we're not on SSRIs or
SSRIs.
anything,
Now, I
so
used to take them quite heavily.
I probably wouldn't recommend it for somebody on something like that. It's
No,
probably not a good idea
and we're
because
not
it can.
doctors.
It also it binds somehow to it, and it increases the effect. and probably don't want to do that.
So like it's probably going to make you chill out a little bit
Yeah.
because of the way your blood, like the way I would describe it, like
Alex Jones, he was jacked, man. He was like he just had 12 shots of
kind of felt like
espresso.
it at first, like I've had a lot of caffeine today, but it felt like it was like adrenaline to the heart whenever 'cause I did lick the bottle. It was concentrated, so I don't think I should have done that. Um, it said low dosage. Well, I'm probably gonna pee like a Smurf.
So far, I think it
I'll,
pretty good.
I'm probably have drank enough water too.
Yeah,
Um,
you gotta drink water with creatine too,
so I'm
like
probably
quite a
good
bit
there.
because it creatine pulls water into the muscles to fill them. Sorry, that was my drink.
But I doubt we're gonna die or anything. We're gonna be okay.
That's highly unlikely. I'm not that fortunate.
Uh, sarcasm.
Lord said you don't get out that easy. True story.
Yeah, I know. I've heard him say a similar thing. Although I do want to talk to you about, the fact, first, let me apologize to our audience, some of you. It's the only time I'm ever going to do this as well. But to those of you who may have thought that I did not interview Mr. Wayne properly, will be having another interview with Gary Wayne sometime in September. So I will do my hardest to make sure Justin asks the questions. So
I'll
we'll
just
see.
mute him. Crossed my mind.
I'm sure it did. But you know what? I treated it like a conversation, not like an interview. And, I work in a place where I have conversations. And so it's kind of my thing to figure out. But I will tell you, our Father in heaven sure has a sense of humor, doesn't he? Um, so I went to the Capitol building. Have you ever been to Helena?
Yeah,
Have you ever been to the Capitol?
yeah. I've been there when I was like 7.
School or something?
No, my mother, her
Oh,
work.
for deep.
Yeah, I was even in the newspaper and I was with the lieutenant governor.
Oh, that's cool. Remind me to get back to what the governor has outside his office. But we went there to testify, and if you follow us on TikTok, I made a video of it that morning.
I have pictures actually.
Oh, that's cool. Like little kid pictures of you with the LT.
I- the newspaper one is, but the pictures I have are ones I took as a kid. So actually, I'm not in any of them.
Oh, you're the
And the bottom
photographer.
bottom of it has in sync pictures because it was in sync film.
Oh, I remember those days. I was thinking about that the other day.
Oh,
Don't want to play a fool. Anyway,
it's gonna be May.
that's right. You can tell what era we're from. Anyway, JT's the only one that you remember. So moving on, or Lance Bass because he
I
was
was gonna
gay.
say I can name them all.
I'm sure you can, but Lance is only because he was gay,
JC
right?
Chavez,
Oh yeah, I forgot about him.
Joey, and
Oh, Joey,
Chris.
we remember Joey, yeah. But
He's on a he's like the host of
cooking
a
show, right?
TV like a Family Feud type thing or
I thought it
something.
was cooking related, wasn't it? But
Maybe it
yes,
is.
I know what you're talking about. I seen
I
him,
mean, none of them like made it big except
Justin,
yeah.
but
He's had plenty of issues though.
yeah,
Not as much as the Beebs, but
yeah. We went to Helena though for House Bill 388, and it was a state bill that was put forward because last year we had CR 128 was voted on. And unfortunately, our state's still really, really liberal, and it enshrined constitutionally abortion in our state. So, what happened?
oh, I just had forgot to turn off the guest port.
Oh, that
And I don't know if it would mess with anything, but I
it
figured
kind
I'd
of
better just
sounded
turn it
weird.
off.
Anyway, um, we had an opportunity to go. Now, I'd already been all up in my head because of I felt like I'd overtalked Mr. Wayne quite a bit, but it's 5.5 hours from here to Helena, and so it's quite a long journey
It's like this, right? Almost the whole
for the
freaking way.
most part. Like you
Yeah,
get a nice straight stretch once you get through the Beartooth for a little
yeah,
bit, but then it gets kind of curvy, and then when you turn to go to Helena, yeah,
yeah. You can't really go that fast because it's so,
no,
yeah,
yeah,
it
no, and it
sucks.
was snowing.
Oh man,
Um,
yeah, that figures.
so what's really cool about this is 15 years ago, I moved here, or maybe 16 years ago now. I moved here when my dad got stationed up here for the military, and so it was pretty cool to be able to go back to Helena. And it was around the same time that we moved here. So that it all kind of was interesting. But where we stayed at was in an Airbnb, and this total. He had a kiln and he taught pottery class. And I mean, it was a nice facility, but it was, I'm pretty sure we know where he came from. California is what I meant.
Oh,
Um, uh, very granola-esque, maybe.
plaid shorts,
That kind of thing.
polos.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But more like linen, yeah, like plaid or like the ones
Yeah.
up to here with like a
Yeah.
linen hoodie and pottery kind of guy. Anyway,
Right on, man.
yeah, sidetracked here. Beautiful home. So when we went to dinner, we went to Applebee's, which is I haven't been there since I was probably like 11. And oh, that's not true. Me and Cher went before we moved here. But we drove right past the high school I went to in Helena and the house that I lived in. So that was kind of neat. And it was one of those God is talking to you moments, right? Because we also drove past the Armed Forces building where my dad worked and all that stuff. And it was like, this is why you were here. This is
This
why
is
you're
your
here.
life.
Uh, no, yes, but it was the next chapter. Anyway, it was you had to be there. Uh, and the next day we went in the morning, and so I took my shofar and I blew my shofar right outside of the Capitol building. Now I was expecting to have to walk through because I've been to state capitals elsewhere, a metal detector and all this. Yeah. So I left my pocket knife in the car and I didn't know that. But I grabbed my shofar, and when I blew my shofar outside of the building, like within a minute and a half of being in there, the guy that works security, I guess, or something, came up. And now, for those of you who don't know what a shofar is, it's a ram's horn, or it's a horn in the Bible that, you see it in battle. You also saw the shofars that were commanded to be made for Moses during certain high feasts and such that were given at Sinai. And it was my shofar is a kind of long, priestly, similar shofar, is what I would describe
Like
it as.
Yiddish or something.
It is a Yiddish shofar, right? My Jewish blood is not Yiddish, Sephardic. That's what you meant, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, Sephardic. Yiddish is a dialect. Um, Sephardic. Anyway, there's a you have Ashkenazi and Sephardic. Ashkenazi are the Bibi Netanyahu, the really, really, really white looking ones.
Hmm.
Sephardic Jews typically are the darker, more olive skinned Wonder Woman
Sure.
Jews. Sorry. And so my Jewish blood's Sephardic, and that's why the Lord called me, I think, to get it. I didn't realize that until after the fact. Anyway, it's a weapon as well, right? And when I went in, the guy,
Spiritually.
yeah, spiritually, not physically. The guy came in right away and was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Well, do you have a relationship with the Lord?" And he was a Native American feller, and so it was a spiritual thing. And for there are those of you out there who understand entirely what I'm saying in regards to, you saw that it was an opposing force at work, not the spirit of the Almighty. And so I was like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to blow it inside. I understand, not today kind of thing. Like, I'm sure at some point I will." But wasn't why I was there. I was there to learn a lesson. And so when we went into the room we were in, 308 as well, and it was the old Senate room, the old law, or not, yeah, not Senate, I'm sorry, the old judicial room where the Supreme Court used to be, and it's where the Judicial Committee is in for the Senate. Now, why that's important is because the law of the Lord is greater than the law of man, and to me, I saw that the symbology here when I went in because that's what I was focused on. I wasn't focused on me. So I was paying attention to the observable lessons that God had for me in the room. And then I was surrounded immediately by trans uh, sexual individuals, right? And I was the only one who sat by myself because I'm the only man with a group of women. So I try to like be point, if this makes sense, in a setting sense. They were kind of tucked in a cubby along the back wall, so Like if anybody came in stupid or something, I was able to, you understand what I'm saying as a man. Um, I'm sitting there postured, paying attention, alpha wolf stuff. And that's right. And I'm not doing so many peck pops of love, but, I might have got one or two in. And you have like two transsexual individuals come sit next to me. You have like two sit in front of me, maybe one normal person. And by normal, I mean in their gender ideology, because these people are human too, even if they're consumed. And then you had like the end of the row filled with transsexuals too. So it's like, though 1,000 may surround me, 10,000 will fall on my right and my left. It is sincerely, though, it was funny to the girls. They all looked at me and laughed with their eyeballs and was like, haha, and we know how hard that is for you. And just sitting here quietly talking to the Lord. Now, the sergeant at arms for the chamber came up and he was like, because I'd asked before we went in, I was willing to leave it on a table that he was in charge of. But I had it wrapped up in my coat because I was trying not to be flamboyant with it, right? And the guy comes up and he goes, just so you're aware, people are wondering what this is. And I've already told them it's just a shofar. It's a religious item, right? Like, and by people, I know what he meant because there was, it's to the left and to the right, right? And everybody on the left, for the most part, minus the transsexual individuals I just mentioned, were there for the purpose of trying to get it to pass or whatever. Over there was all the,
Liberals.
yeah. And so there was a lot of them in person to speak in opposition. And there was probably a dozen of us, 14 maybe, plus the lady who crafted the bill. And it was interesting because when the guy came up to me, right, little bit later on, he came back and he goes, uh, after he told me, people are wondering, he came back and it was getting close to when the people who were in favor, which is us, was getting ready to wrap up. And he was like, if you want to talk, I'll hold that. So remember that for a detail in a moment. And so I looked at him and I said, no, I'm not here. And I didn't even realize what I said. I'm not here to talk today. I'm here to listen. And I said, she'll be doing the speaking for us today. And I said, I'm just going to sit here. Boy, oh my. When the Bible says, we prophesy unto ourselves as well as unto each other. Right? God is so funny. Because after everybody wrapped up, and I sat through all the lies that the opposition said, and like they had people call in and they made very, very egregious accusations towards organizations like ours. They tried to, and you can tell it's the devil at work because they said things like these people are religious fundamentalists who want to push their views on other. They try to say things like we don't have medically qualified people when my organization has two board certified nurses and a nurse practitioner that work there and volunteer there. So that's a false statement. And there's 13, 14 of us in this state that are like that, mainly on the other side. We're the biggest on this side besides Billings. And so us being there was a big deal because the eastern side of the state spiritually was represented in the state house as well. And the Bible tells us that when we go before kings and governors, we'll know what to say. And so it was a very powerful thing to see sisters in Christ and even some men who called in to testify for something like that before the halls of government. Now, when we were done, uh, side note, I didn't know I could talk there. So me willingly saying, for those of you who don't know me in person, all you have to do is watch the last podcast and you get a good idea of my personality. God made me to talk to people, and sometimes that gets you in trouble. So me saying, no, I'm be quiet is a pretty big thing. And as we were leaving, the guy came up to me again, the sergeant at arms said, and said, just so you know, again, he told me, he's like, a lot of people are going to ask you like what this is, and if anybody gives you a hard time, you tell them who I am and what I said and that it's all right. You don't remember that part. Okay, now the sergeant at arms name is Bruce. Well, our good brother in Christ and friend's name is Bruce. Okay. Um, Not only that, Bruce was a cop in the army, an MP, and so what is that?
The guy at the Capitol?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so that's the enforcement of the law, right? In a biblical sense. I never once had to explain to him, like I did the guy downstairs, what a shofar was. He called it what it was by name. And you only, and I'm not being arrogant, but for the most part, unless you've read your Bible once, you're not really going to know what the name of it is.
Or Jewish.
Or you're Jewish, right? This guy wasn't. And uh, so his name was Bruce, and him offering to hold the shofar makes sense too because of what he did. So it was a temptation in a way, but it wasn't a temptation. It was a test of obedience, is what it was. It felt like. So when we were done, I went back outside and I blew the shofar again, and then go ahead and tell him what you said about what our brother in Christ Bruce said.
Oh, that I should muzzle you.
Yeah,
You talk too much.
and so
It's something about clobbering.
yeah, I'm sure he did.
It's clobbering time.
He is very Samson-like.
But he told me that the night before, but I waited till after you were done at that meeting thing because I knew you'd be all ooh touchy feely about it.
Yeah, yeah. But
I
God did
figured
too,
less distraction.
which I appreciate as a brother in Christ. But God knew what you just said too. That's why the guy's name was Bruce. I mean, you cannot write that. How do you not believe in God, people? Like, it doesn't get much better than that.
If you meet a Derek, pay attention.
That's right. It was just good because, the lesson there was taught not just necessarily by reading comments and stuff, but then, um, I went to the following day after we got back from Helena, I woke up hungry. I very, very, very rarely, maybe 4 times a year, eat breakfast. And I heard the Lord, like, I didn't budget this, right? And I'm a budgeter when it comes to my funds and stuff like that. And I heard God say, go to Glendive. All right. And as I was walking out the door in the car, I heard, go get your shofar. Because a couple weeks back, when I had went to Glendive, I heard the father tell me that I was disobedient because I hadn't taken my shofar, and because I had never blown it in Glendive. But he opened the door up because and I see this lesson. I'm sharing it with you and with all of you. Was you were obedient in one way. Let's follow through and listen in this way too, Rich. Obedience is what God desires and always. And, sometimes it's not physical, it's self-imposed obedience too. And, I've concluded something recently in my last life here recently in the last couple weeks that really he hammered the point. You're going to be obedient this year home. And if you can do that, which I did, you can be obedient in everything else, right? And we're not talking like folding laundry and stuff. We're talking about going when he says go, right? Which I should fold my laundry. But so I got up, went to breakfast in Glendive, right? Wonderful place, Glendive, Montana, connected to the Sinclair is a breakfast restaurant called Gigi's, and it's like an old style, like trucker cafe diner, right? You can get a great breakfast, right? But that's probably the best meal you're going to get all day there. Their lunch isn't bad, but that's not why I go there. And they're open from like 5:30 in the morning to 9 at night. So they're truckers. So they have to be they're good for a reason in breakfast. Good greasy, nasty breakfast. So we just went and we got. Now, I've been eating much healthier, so all I ordered was like an omelet with some meat in it and cheese, right? I think I ate one of their little coffee donuts. But after that, I heard the Lord, or before that, there were two places that I was supposed to blow the shofar. It was around the county building, and so we did that before breakfast. And when we did, there was a warlock. And the way I know he was a warlock, ladies and gentlemen, was he had his black forefinger painted, and he had a big crystal pendulant on, which was also a scrying stone. And he was walking the counter direction. Now I was searching because I was going to anoint whatever cornerstone or like Mason monument or whatever was connected to it. I thought that's why I was there. but their cornerstone's kind of off of the building and to the side, like on its own. So I think it's
Hmm.
not the original courthouse, maybe, but that's the original cornerstone. So I stopped and I prayed over it like I was told to. Then I went to the steps. Now there's a lady walking in because there's a Stockman Bank across the street, walking into the courthouse and totally didn't even flinch. And some people you just know are angels, right? Like some people you know it's God just watching you. And that's what this little old lady I wholeheartedly think was. Um, Maybe not in a heavenly angelic sense, but in a messenger of the Lord sense.
Yeah, that guy like that. And when I lived in Pennsylvania,
Yeah, you've
I
met people like
I
that.
was going. I was when I was homeless in my van, and I was trying to get food stamps figured out. So I'd have food
Yeah,
of some. And well, it's a city, right? So it's definitely a little bigger than I'm used to, and it was really hard to find the place. I walked around the building like 3 times. There's no signs
yeah.
to tell you where to go.
There never is in
And
government buildings.
and so I'm just outside and I'm just freaking out. And then this guy comes around the corner and goes, "Hey, what are you looking for?" And I was like, "I'm looking for the food stamp building." He's like, this is literally what he says. "Oh, God must have put me in your path." And I was like, and he points me to it, whereas a little conversation, and he takes off. And in that moment, God hit me and was like, "You have no faith."
Yeah.
And I was like, it was exposed hard.
And I love
And I
when,
was like, man, if I lose my faith in something so small, I
yeah,
mean, really, by looking at it, it's so insignificant of a thing.
yeah.
And then it was like, you got a long way to go, son.
Yes. And it's a good reminder when it does happen throughout your walk because
Yeah.
it reminds you you still have a good while to go, son. Like
If you're breathing, you ain't done.
done. That's right.
You
If
stop breathing, done.
that's right, you're done here
Been
and
perfected.
that's right, I'll take you home. Um and so
Terry
yes.
says something like that. He's like, I'm 68 years old and I'm still not perfect.
Right.
I ain't there yet.
But it was just interesting because like we locked eyes before I blew my shofar in front of the courthouse. And when I did, it was like, got this. That's how it felt. And I just blared my shofar. Now there was a gal sitting in a red Suburban that Warlock feller was talking to when I blew my shofar. Well, I immediately walked across the street to the bank because I had to take some money out for breakfast. And uh, it was, yeah, anyway. And the window's tinted so you can't see in, but you can see out, which I love that. And so I'm watching them like keep looking back at me or whatever because you could for those of you who've never experienced something like that, and I feel like I'm supposed to share this because and I don't do this very often, but I feel like I'm supposed to because there's a lesson of obedience that I'm trying to get to here. And um the I just kept looking at them and you could see that they had manifested right in this. Okay. Then I went to breakfast. Breakfast was wonderful, right? Always tip your waiter if they're good. And so we had a nice breakfast and everything. And then we went to there's a river, park area over by the Reynolds that's down there. And then there's a bridge that they don't use anymore that you can walk across. And so I took it to the middle of the river, standing on that bridge. That's where I was told to go to kind of, I think it was, I'm not certain what it represents, but all I can think of is it has something to do with the question I asked Gary at the very end. Um, does that make sense? And so we walked across. Now, another old man. It was an old man, and he was like, just odd looking. Like most old men around here don't dress like how I'm about to describe. He had on like Janko blue jeans, big baggy like jeans, but like a plaid shirt and like a not a normal ball cap, and then like a coat too, and just these
Do you have a
Velcro
cane?
white, huh? No. And he had these Velcro white tennis shoes on, and and Pickles, my dog, who is a miniature Australian Shepherd, is a very spiritually in tuned dog, right? We left Tater at home and we took him because that was also part of it. Pickles went nuts when this guy came across our path. The other person he was in the car with Cher. This person he was out of the car. Now he wasn't trying to go at this person or anything, but I had him on this side of me walking and he had been walking. As soon as this person got within 25 feet of me or whatever, I was like, okay, Pickles, it was a move on my end for just how I operate. I moved him to the outside because it prevents people and he would, it wasn't an evil feeling because I've seen him bark at people, but he didn't want to go towards him, right? It's like the donkey kind of thing is what I'm getting at. Yeah, with when the donkey wouldn't move, Pickles did not want to move. And so I was like, well, is this where we're supposed to stop and blow it? So we did. I let him walk a little so I didn't blow his eardrums out. But all right, then I go home. Well, Saturday, I see on Facebook that there was that, or Friday night, I saw that there was this, what was that thing that they were complaining about Elon about on the 4th? Trump and the Elon and the tariffs. Sorry, there was a thing. It was a name of something. It was like this rally together. All the leftists and liberals in the country got together and protested Trump and all this.
Oh, the something hand.
Yeah, hands off our democracy
Yeah,
or something
hands
like that.
off. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
it was.
So
Yeah, they
this,
had one in Billings too.
yeah, I was so surprised.
Yeah, it's
But he,
Billings.
no, no,
Oh,
no, that there wasn't one in Miles City. Considering, I
just
know,
don't roll that way, man.
no, here's why. Here, yes, you do. Here's what I'm about to say. Hold on. Looking at the video footage of it, the people who were involved primarily, not 100%, but primarily, whether it was in DC, Billings, Glendive, where I was, or Sacramento, was mainly old school leftist liberal people in their 60s or older who were worried about like their 401ks, their pensions, and all of that. When you go look at all the footage, there's almost no young people. And the young ones that are there are our age young, right? And they're extreme communist leftists, like they're going to be anywhere where they can try
Yeah,
and tear down
far
democracy,
left.
and so when you look at the footage, it's mainly old people. And so Glendive, I think the reason they went with Glendive is because of proximity of age. Like it is an older, the old people are older there than the old people here. Does this make sense? Like prime old people target. It's a railroad community. It's all pension related. It's where BNSF has a big headquarters. So you can get the railroad thing. And personally, I just think there's too much witchcraft and other powers at work in Miles City for that part to have. Like Glendive's a much more patriotic city too than Miles City in regards to showing it in public. People in Miles City are political. I'm not saying that, but Glendive as a community is very openly conservatively public, Republican. I mean, they're the minority there, the leftists and such. Whereas here you have the people are still political, but they're kind of divided,
Yeah,
right? There's a lot of leftists in Miles City. Glendive, not so much. It's a very, and it's more, I get it, why, right? It's different community settlements. Anyway, I went to, go ahead.
they're having problem even with the round table group
Yeah.
getting people to show up,
Yeah.
but they don't do themselves a lot of favors.
The roundtable people.
Yes,
Yeah.
because they're very old that run it,
Yes.
and it feels very old.
Yes.
So
But it's,
like
yeah.
even like there's not people our age there. Even
No,
they're
the
they're
youngest ones are in their
55 and
40s.
up at least,
Yeah,
most
yeah,
of them.
most of them, yeah.
I mean, it's just their video quality is terrible. You can't hear through the video at all because they don't have any real microphones. They could literally fix that problem with the $10 little mini mics that I bought.
Oh yeah, for our man on the
Problem
street stuff.
problem fixed. You could hear
Yeah.
everything perfect then. Just pass the tiny microphone. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and I
I
mean,
mean, and then they recently wanted everyone they're looking for donations because they give out drinks and snacks or whatever. I'm like, you're at the VFW. Why are you giving out free drinks and snacks? Make people pay for it so the business gets something too.
agreed.
I mean, I don't know if I'm talking crazy, but
Well,
that
that's
doesn't
like,
make any sense to me. Why would a business host this group, and they're not getting
It's
anything.
like a men's Bible study having it at a coffee shop and bringing a
Bring your own, yeah.
thermos.
Go Subway, bring your own sandwich.
That's right. Here, I made my own
You
bread. Can
don't
you just
do
make?
that.
No. Good
And
point.
so I think that's weird. The
Yeah.
VFW could get extra snacks of variety or whatever, or different drinks that
To
isn't
make a little
alcohol.
money off of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's, if you then you fill that room up with 60 people or whatever, and third of them all buy a drink, they've made a good little extra profit than they normally would have because they wouldn't normally have that many people.
Agreed.
Call me crazy.
Um,
Don't need to fundraise.
you know,
Stop giving it away for free.
go to my Facebook and add Marshall's mom. Okay. And she's a part of it. You can send, she will listen to what you just said.
Yeah, but I don't want to.
Huh?
I don't want to because then they're going to try to rope me into it.
No, 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 no. She wouldn't. She will go out and follow through with your advice, is what I'm saying. I do a Bible study with her. That's why I know that. Like, I don't do the heavy lifting politically at the county level unless I need to go and be a thorn in the side of people, like, and, gaze at them
And
aggressively,
they always have their meetings on Sunday night.
which is dumb.
Look, during football season, you're
Agreed.
not going to see me
Saturdays is bad
as the
too.
Broncos are playing. Then
I
I
think
don't care.
Thursday nights is the best night to do something like that because
Yeah.
everybody's kids are done in school.
And you don't want to do Wednesday because that's when every church has their
Right.
whatever.
And now that the kids are off on Fridays, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. But agreed. Anyway, speaking of the VFW with here in Miles City, the when I went to this rally, again, I think it's because it was just me, it's old people. And it was, like I said, the youngest person was maybe 50, 45 tops, or youngest maybe. And when I went to it, they did it in the park. You've been to Glendive to the Attic. Well, that park that's right next to
Hmm.
it is right across the street from the Masons Lodge.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I see you. All right. Now, remember the questions. If you didn't watch the podcast, go watch the podcast, All Things God and Country. I think it's episode 14 with Gary Wayne and
15.
or 15. Please ignore anything you perceive as annoying. Um,
Just ignore him.
yeah. Anyway, uh, the Masons Lounge right across the street. Well, the corner I stood on, I had already ministered and followed through with what I'm supposed to do on the weekend. And so the corner I stood on was the corner by the Masons Lodge in Glendive. I didn't know that. And then the whole thing comes on about yada yada. We had a sign that said Christ is King. We took our flag and we just stood there. They yelled, and every time they would try and get some, this is what democracy looks like, weak, vitamin D deficient kind of chant going, I would blow my shofar and just not obnoxious about it, but I would just Christ is King about it, if that makes sense. Like, he is the name above all names. Remember, God puts all men in authority, kind of thing, is how I was treating it. Now, I did respond one time when they passive aggressively came and yelled that say, democracy, yada yada, and I blew my shofar and I said, we're a republic. That was the only thing I said from this side of the street. All right. The Lord pressed on me. They did this from 11 to 1. The Lord pressed on me 12:30. And so at 12:30 on the dot, this man came walking up. I looked at our friend and Cher and I said, that man's off. He might be a warlock, is what I said. And when I did, I assumed, which is dangerous, but part of what the Lord is having me hone in is that judgment, is that perception of myself and others. And so he read our sign and he said, why don't you blow that shofar? And I said, I have been blowing the shofar or whatever. I said, you know it by name. I said, you know the Lord? He said, I was born in the way of the light. I was like, oh yeah, this is about to be fun. Um, he went over there and then they surrounded him like little devil maniac hyenas. And I heard go. And I walked across the street and I blew my shofar in the midst of all these people. And you could see, I think I've shared with you before how it was like the first time I spoke at the banquet, how I could see things over people's heads. For a moment, I feel like I had probably more akin to how the Lord lets you operate. And when I did, I went up and I just stood next to this man and I quoted from Psalms 91. I said, though a thousand may surround me, this was the second time I had said this to myself this past week. 10,000 will fall at my right and my left. This is a psalm I quoted every day to myself in the army as well. And teaching through the Psalms right now has really made me, David was no wimp, you know, like, but
Go watch House of David on Amazon Prime.
which will be a conversational topic for next week's podcast.
I
Um,
need to watch more of it. I've only watched like 2 episodes.
okay, I've watched none, so
So
we're good.
we need to watch something.
Okay, I was going to. Um, uh,
It gives me confidence because Greg Laurie has a big hand in it.
yes.
So it makes me happy.
Um, and so I went across the street and they bombarded me, of course, because it was to them obnoxious. And you could see the manifesting of these demons really hard. And they were like, why don't you go over outside? There was these two little boys there, and they were like, why don't you go over there? And I said, I'm not here for you. I'm here for my brother. And I stood there and I let him do the talking. Um, his name was Nathan. And when the law enforcement came, because they called the cops on us, um, I found out that he was also a vet and everything. And it was just nice because you saw the Lord back in this act of obedience. What I saw was the Lord, much like Justin said a minute ago, bring the other troop to the line. And that's what I really feel like God is pressing in on us, especially me in this season, is to press on, but to press on in such a way that I not only look but listen. And obedience does come in many ways. And I'm not saying I've been disobedient because I don't feel that I have, but I feel like I'm hard-headed and God is teaching me a hard-headed man's lesson. And in that, this year of my life is devoted to him in full, but as well to listening. And that's what I would encourage everyone to, is to listen this year.
Well, I've had the same experience, but in reverse.
To speak,
Yes,
yes,
because my default is quiet.
right.
And usually that's good, but there is a time where it's all right, settle down, boys. I got to take the reins.
Well, and you can see where, at least I think in our personal relationship, I think you can see very well. In a lot of ways, I am Aaron and you are Moses, so to say. And I I do a lot of the talking in our friend dynamic, but I also see God calling you to be doing more talking
Sure.
in your day to day. And so it goes with the season, right? Like me talking for the topic that God has called me to, as far as ending abortion in our state, there's a time and place, right? And going back to our brother Bruce, one of the most powerful things Bruce has ever said to me was in the park a few years ago during Bucking Horse when we put the sign down the road and everything. Uh, long walk, hashtag, and long walk across America.
Long Walk USA.
There we go. I knew it was something like that. And Bruce hugged me and he told me he said, Jake, you're a special person and uh, you have a knack for what you do or whatever. And I asked him something and about his brother, and he said, "No," he said, "you have a long way to go before you'll be that kind of man." How did he say it? You'll have a long way to go before you'll be that quiet of a man, something like that. And it was
Quieter than I.
uh,
Much quieter than I.
in my old age, I feel I will be, and I think that there's a one of my favorite quotes is youth and treachery is no match for old age and wisdom. That's what I'm getting at is that I'm in, it's a fun lesson, but at the same time, I see my service to the Lord and how it is being used because I had an opportunity to blow my shofar all day, literally, to elevate his name above the other names. Um, in front of the Masons Lodge, and then I walked around and did it in front of the courthouse as well. And that's my first time doing it in Glendive, and I've done it in Miles City for years. And I felt like Lord had fully kind of commissioned that part. So the lesson here is to be obedient and listen. Listen to where the Lord is leading you. Brother, our brother Doug says that you need to be so close with Him if he tells you to move your head an inch to the left, that you don't hesitate and move your head an inch to the left. Because
You
that's
might get
how,
shot.
that's what he says too. It's one of my favorite shorts that he's ever done. Is because he's so he was not mad, but angry
Hmm.
at the world for a moment in that. Because when he said that, you could tell something was on his mind heavy.
Angry at the church.
Yes, but he said it with the authority
Hmm.
that was worthy of it. And obedience is wise. You know, it was Christ's obedience unto death that brings about our salvation.
Obedience is greater than sacrifice.
That's right. It was his obedience. All right. I think we miss it when he sweats drops of blood, right? That's the submission of the flesh to the spirit in the most powerful way possible, right? Like that was done for you, for me, for all of us. We can listen when he tells us to shut up and, and he'll be funny about it. He'll use a guy named Bruce. He'll send you another brother who's also got a prophetic gift named Nathan, to speak to government, like, and on behalf of the children. And he's funny. And if you take the time to build the relationship with him, you'll see it. You'll see Abba, won't you?
Oh yeah. And
Mhm.
then you'll get one named Derek.
Well, uh, you know,
And they just keep coming.
I have a lot of sisters in my life in a way that uh, a lot of brothers don't. And my role in this is because of the protective nature I have or whatever. And I see how God uses it. But I'm also in their husbands' lives. But I will tell you, there is nothing more like you think your tongue is sharp and witty. Think about a sister in Christ who also has a prophetic gifting, who's like able to see into me the way you can see into me, because I can't see into myself the same way as I can see into other people. It doesn't work that way. And so, yeah, I know I've heard it a lot this week. How about that?
Check the comments.
I did. And you know what?
Most of them are trolls. There's a
Yeah.
couple good ones, but
Yeah, you know what? The one is weird. The
yeah,
very first one
that
is
one's
very
weird.
weird. But the worst one is just that one guy. And it's really not even that bad. It's
No,
just me. I know I yak,
no, they'll
guys.
be worse. Well, they'll be much worse.
I'm going to listen to Joe and what Joe said.
Don't read the comments.
Do it once, do it twice, but set a point and never do it again.
You take the David Goggins approach and record them and play it in your headphones while you work out.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, that's some gangsta
Yeah,
stuff, right?
that's crazy.
Talk about self-talk.
Ah, put it on record and listen to it. Give me motivation.
That's right. You think you're bad? You ain't bad.
Oh,
You
that's
hear
funny.
that? That's his knees.
Jocko sees it. He just goes, hmm.
You know who my favorite brother in a military sense, even though he's not as battle hardened as they is definitely, and there's a reason God's elevated him in recent times, is Sean Ryan.
Yeah.
Because he has the same soldier mindset I do, and he never saw combat in the same way as some of those other guys we talked about. He never did he?
Yeah, he saw combat as a SEAL and a operative.
Sean did?
Mm.
I thought he said he didn't deploy on the same missions as the other dudes.
No, that was somebody else, I think.
There's a lot of them out there, guys.
Goggins didn't.
Maybe it's Goggins I'm
He
thinking of
never saw
then.
combat.
That might be who I'm thinking of.
He was in a convoy that was in some scary area, but never actually fought
Firefight.
combat.
Well, and folks like him and I, still soldiers at heart. Folks like you're a different kind of soldier. Like cyber warfare soldier is more like what you'd been. You've been a good techie soldier.
Sniper.
Yeah, Goggins is like a bullet sponge kind of soldier. I'm a logistics guy. And
Jocko's the guy with his leg up on the tank holding the flag.
that's right, with the shell that's
Yeah.
expired.
Yeah.
Yeah. These dudes, but the ones who are brothers in Christ, you really see we are soldiers. There was a lady who asked me what that flag meant. I said, it's the banner by which we march. It's the cross. And shut that down real quick when it's the enemy, because every knee will bow, every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord of Lords and King of Kings. And I think that our other podcast was long enough. I don't think we have to do a long one.
No.
I think I've expounded upon the lesson that I needed, and that is to be obedient, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes it's your friend being sarcastic. Sometimes it's Jehovah being hilarious in more than one way. So pay attention because the Bible tells you be cautious of who you entertain, for you never know when angels are amongst you. Choose this day whom you will serve, brothers and sisters, because today may be your last day, and today is the day of your salvation. Trust upon the name that is Christ Jesus, and let your salvation be known unto you. See you next time.
That's it, everybody. We are out.